We good? Yeah. Okay, welcome back, trustees. We're now reconvening the June 30th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Office of Foreign Affairs. Trustees, we have a neighbor island guest who is coming from Kauai, and so if it is okay with you, I'd like to take community concerns and celebrations out of order. We have unanimous consent. I'd like to have Uncle Rupert. Okay. So we're going to reopen community concerns. We have unanimous consent. Uncle Rupert Rowe, thank you for joining us.
Aloha to all of you. I see there's some misunderstanding on a heiau. The misunderstanding when I was here on the 23rd was about the Kanaka and the Hawaiian. If you on Hawaiian, you don't know who owned the heiau. If you on Kanaka, you understand who owned the heiau. Ownership of the heiau is the Kanaka. Only the Kanaka can own the heiau. And if the state recognizes us and give us $400,000 and we come in front of OHA, you guys are playing games. How come you can back us up? What's the problem? Let's pilikia. Some of you like huli. What's the reason? I need to know so I can help you understand who you are. Not Hawaiian. Deep in yourself so you know what's going on. A heiau gives us the stability of not worshiping. We're not talking about worship. Worship is your choice. If you want to go back in the past, that's your choice. If you want to live in the modern time in Christianity, that's your choice. But remember, the heiau is the most important thing that will ever happen right now in Hawaii. This is the only place that is going to be restored with the support of the state. The state admits they don't own the heiau. So how come you guys don't know who owned the heiau? I need to know. Explain to me. I'm here. I don't fly from Kauai to come over here to look at arguments and don't understand the issue. I feel hurt inside. Because once you don't know who you are, then you get pilikia. If you know who you are, no more pilikia. Look around yourselves, like I said the last time. How you measure yourself as a Hawaiian? You don't know how to do that. But if you're on Kanaka, you're all even. You don't have to be ashamed. If I tell the kids when they come to the heiau, how many of you are half Hawaiian? Out of 40 kids, only 2. But I tell them, if you Kanaka, you all even. So if they can see the picture, how come we cannot see the picture as a grown-up? I don't want to come over here to scold you guys. You guys should put priority. This is the only chance we get to bring back our past. Think deep. Understand. You is Kanaka. And when I write to you folks, I write the Office of Kanaka Affairs, not the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. That person don't exist. A Hawaiian is a malahini. A Kanaka is the roots of Hawaii. We lost that identity. So, before I scold you guys some more, I would rather sit down and relax so you guys understand. There's only one person in this whole room. You guys are all Kanakas. Tell yourself that. Tell a guy on the side of you, You is Kanaka. So you no more stupid on your head. You know the word Lolo Hupo? You're going around in a circle and cannot find the corner. That's the problem we get. So no hooky each other in here. I feel sad. Hurt my heart. Come over here, listen to nonsense. Be positive. Like Imua, let's go forward. Let's not trip over the rock. Okay? That's all I get to say. Aloha.
Mahalo, Uncle Rupert. Lehu, is there anyone else for community concerns?
There is no one else signed up.
Hearing none, the chair would like to now propose an amendment to the budget. I move to amend the OHA Biennium Budget for fiscal years 2026 and 2027 by removing line items 8715 through 8721 on pages 211 and 212 of attachment 4, which total $4,925,000 for the proposed grants CIP projects. In their place, I propose adding a single line item in the FY26 budget for $2,550,000 as a grants CIP from the trust fund, and a single line item in the FY27 budget for $2,450,000 as a grant CIP from the trust fund. Additionally, in column P, I propose adding the following budget proviso language. No later than September 1st, 2025, the Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation and the Grants Director shall develop and formalize an OHA Community CIP Grants Program, which shall begin accepting applications from the community by September 15th, 2025 for CIP projects to be considered for OHA funding. All proposed community CIP grant projects must meet the requirements set forth in Hawaii Revised Statutes 42F-103 and must, at the time of application, have a CIP appropriation award by the Hawaii State Legislature to be eligible. The CIP grants program and process must include components for 1. Application and award. 2. Eligibility information. 3. Release of funds. 4. Contract execution. 5. Contract administration and expenditure. And finally, 6. Contract closing. Trustees, are there any questions or discussion on the chair's motion to amend?
I would appreciate that being on the board. That happened so quick. I don't even know what page we're on. What page are we on?
We will put it on the board for you. We are on page
Chair, I'd
211.
like to see that in writing.
Yep, we got it coming up. The amendment is presented before the Board of Trustees. If you'd like to look at your budget, what the chair is proposing is to remove all 3 CIP projects from the budget, including the Kauai He'au, the Keokaha Kawananakoa Hall Gym, and the Ulua'e project in Kapolei. We will be creating a CIP grants program that everyone can apply to, that is fair and is transparent, and follows the exact same process as the legislature, but we will also condition it that any applicant that OHA will consider must have CIP funding from the legislature. So we are not funding the entire project. If you have your state senator on board, you have your state rep on board, OHA will be there to partner with you to finish your project. And there are many that the legislature has approved this year and last year. And that is the amendment before the board. Discussion? Trustee Souza?
Well, Mr. Chair, I just want to tell you that I do support this amendment. I know you didn't need a second for it in this process, but just want to say this was a concern of a lot of our fellow trustees and administration as well. I just want to say I thank you for making this amendment because it shows that we're listening. It also shows that we're trying to be equitable across the board, and that's how we do. That is the process, right? At the very least, that is a process. Creating an avenue for our beneficiaries to get their monies, and we need to be transparent. And this is the process that you're proposing here today. So mahalo.
Mahalo. Absolutely, Trustee Huna, you're recognized. Turn on your microphone, please.
Be clear, so we're redoing that whole budget line item, and oh shucks, okay, well, I mean, it's okay, so with that, you know, there are several speakers that came up today, and one that really captured, you know, my attention was repatriation. And the only reason why I say this is because I've been on those trips and I know the cost that is. And when I was looking at that line item, I don't think that they can survive with that 19,000. And I was just hoping like if was taking,
We can, it's not this,
Oh, it's not that,
trustee,
but-
no, but we can offer that up as an amendment.
the reason why I brought it up is because where does this money go now?
Which money?
The money that you guys taking away from,
So what, this is a total of $5 million
Yeah.
over the 2 fiscal years. What OHA will be doing is something that doesn't exist right now.
okay,
We will reserve an allocation of resources for statewide community projects that benefit Native Hawaiians, whether it's community kitchens or a pavilion or the restoration renovation of a gym that we built 20 years ago. But we'll do it in a process where everyone can apply. However, we're going to follow the exact same process that the state legislature holds the highest standards. And we're going to also require that the applicant, you got to have some buy-in from our partners at the ledge. So if you have a state CIP already allocation, which all 3 of these did, 1-for-1 match in Keaukaha, 400,000 in this legislative session for Kauai, 50,000 in the previous, 75,000 in the previous legislative budget, you would be able to apply.
okay.
So we just, I think the message that I heard from going to the legislature with Kapuana when we presented the budget was the senators especially want to see collaboration between OHA and other community government agencies. These projects did that. But I will admit, there may not have been a process where others could have applied. So we're going to address that here and make it fair.
Okay.
Chair, in as much as we don't operate exactly like the ledge, I think that we should write a policy for the looking at this this new system, because as we shared, we never did give out CIP money. And that's what concerned, I think, quite a few of us on this table. So if we have policies to back up our decisions, like that would really help.
And what this does is it provisos in column P of your budget. If you look at that line item, the senior director of S&I and the grants director to collaborate, to work together, to create standard operating procedures, to create an application process that follows the same statute, HRS 42F103, that the legislature does. And that's giving them 60 days to do that. And then we can take that out to our communities and people can apply.
Yep.
And if programs like the County of Hawaii want to apply, they can apply. And they'll go through the same process that our other HOA sponsors do. Eventually it'll come to us in an action item and then we can decide.
I just wanted to speak for the HEA because it's been going on for decades. You know, they wrote a grant, they didn't get the grant. We went to visit them. We talked to them. He came back. We did due diligence, and the last thing was like, I mean, I don't know where it stands, but for the last decade we didn't do anything. So, and we've been doing a lot of we put a lot of time into the HEA. So I just wanted to make sure that we
Well,
do something.
and I,
one of
Trustee
these
Ahuna, I
years.
think, we want to also acknowledge the extremely strong legislative support for all of these projects. The Kauai project had the support of the state Senate president, the Speaker of the House, the mayor of the County of Kauai, the chairman of the Kauai County Council. In addition to dozens of letters of support from community. So we realize that. We just have to establish a process, and the chair recognizes that. And that's why this is the first amendment that I wanted to propose personally. And I think it's a good thing, and it establishes a program and a process. Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo, I appreciate this with a process because it really highlights the desire for our people to see that partnership within the different levels, the various levels of government, so that one would hope that more funding will come in because there's more partners in that, and that something will actually be done in a proper process, but instead of it going years and years and years where it's just caught up between the different entities. I did want to ask, I recall part of the CIP was the UH, the
Sorry.
UH Jabson part.
We're not talking about that right now, though.
Right, so I wanted to touch on that because I noticed that that was not a part of it. So are we going to address that after?
If once we get past this, we can. And, you know, I just want to note, Kawana Nakoa Hall, you know, I mean, our chair emerita, you know, has long, strong roots to Kilkaha. And this would have been a potentially $3.5 million investment on OHA's part for an $11 million rate of return because the county of Kauai and Mayor Kimo Alameda had committed 3.5. And the state legislature, through now the House Finance Chair, Representative Chris Todd, had committed 3.5. So OHA's commitment to this $11 million renovation that would have a massive impact in our Lahui, maybe it's still a possibility, but you got to go through the process and we have to have a process. So I recognize that. Trustees, are there any other questions? See no further discussion?
Wait, Chair.
I'm sorry, Chair.
I think that timeline is too tight for our administration to write the CIP grants program.
In your experience, what would you think is a reasonable amount of time?
I
And
would,
I'm happy to have the couple on the way in.
well, maybe we should ask her.
Sure.
Model Chair, I'm conferring with the grants manager who would have to actually do this work. Yes, please. Is it okay if Chantal?
Sure, absolutely. I should tell. Chantel, I will add that I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. The legislature has a lot of the templates and the application process. And so that is why we wrote it this way. So we don't have to reinvent a process, but we can start from at least a starting point.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would prefer to extend that just because it's new for
Sure.
the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And we'd want to be able to explain it to the community as well, give them opportunity to hear, like have us come out and do a workshop or a few workshops if that's possible, so that everyone's clear on the expectations and the process as well.
You think, given that, we want to just extend this to the end of the calendar year and maybe starting in the new calendar year, we can start taking applications?
That would be excellent.
Okay,
Yes.
well then I propose that hold on. True. I propose to adjust the date. Okay. Oh, hold on. Trustee Akaka.
I'm recommending if we go forward with this action, if it is approved, that we look at actively being, including this in the presentations for the OAHA, for not just Oahu, but the island community meetings that are remaining
Yep.
in this calendar year. And that it be a practice going forward
Sure.
as well. Especially if we're trying, the true intent is to make it Pai'aina wide.
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you. Trustee Souza.
Mahalo, Mr. Chair. You know, I propose at this time that the amendment that you proposed earlier start in the new calendar year in collaboration with our grants department and be executed January 1st, 2026.
So the motion is to amend the motion to remove the reference to September 5th, from September 15th, 2025, or September 21.
September 1st.
Because September 1 is the date and you're accepting application. So are you changing application date to January 15th as well?
If I could, can I speak? Or can I?
Yeah.
Okay, so what it would read is no later than December 31st, 2025, right? The Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation, the Grants Director, shall develop and formalize an OHA Community CIP Grants Program, which shall begin accepting applications from the community by January 1st, 2026.
Sir, just to clarify, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, that is the motion I intended to make.
I want us also to consider beyond the calendar year, our fiscal years.
Sorry, Chantel.
There's no grants director. So I'm the grants manager and I currently
What?
report to the Director of Community Engagement.
And as I stated earlier, grants department. So I think it's safer. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. I'm sorry, Trustee Akaka.
Yes, another thing to consider, so we're looking at the calendar year, but taking into consideration what that looks like from a fiscal year standpoint and how that works with all those that have to crunch those numbers and make sense of it.
Yep.
I think that's something to consider as well. But maybe we can have the language be tight enough, but flexible where it makes sense, where our staff are not pressed so hard where they can't fulfill that kuleana.
Sure.
And provide us the proper information and for our community.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, Chantel, end of the year, more than reasonable? Chantel?
Yes.
Okay,
Vote on the amendment to your
Listen.
original motion and then vote on that. So we got two votes.
okay, so let's do two votes. The first one is on the amendment that trustee Souza, that is been conferred by our grants manager. And then we'll take the next one. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna. Thank you. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
We have 8 yes votes.
Now, it's,
Read the whole thing again.
yeah, just read
Okay.
the thing again with the different dates.
Okay. Okay. The new motion is to move to amend the OHA Biennium Budget for fiscal year 26 and 27 by removing line items 8715 through 8721 on pages 211 and 212 of attachment 4, which total $4,925,000 for the proposed grant CIP projects. In their place, I propose adding a single line item in the FY26 budget for $2,550,000 as a grant CIP from the trust fund, and a single line item in the FY27 budget for $2,450,000 as a grant CIP from the trust fund. Additionally, in column P, I propose adding the following budget proviso language. No later than December 31st, 2025, the Senior Director of S&I and the Grants Manager shall develop and formalize an OHA Community CIP Grants Program, which shall begin accepting applications from the community by January 1st, 2026 for CIP projects to be considered for OHA funding. All proposed community CIP grant projects must meet the requirements set forth in HRS 42F 103 and must, at the time of application, have a CIP appropriation award by the Hawaii State Legislature to be eligible. The CIP grants program and process must include components for 1. Application and award, 2. Eligibility information, 3. Release of funds, 4. Contract execution, 5. Contract administration and expenditure, and 6. Contract closing. Roll call vote.
It was his motion, so it was
It's good,
restated
yeah.
in his motion. You can second if you want, but like we said, the second.
No need,
doesn't-
yeah. Say what?
Trustee Ahuna.
Aye.
Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa.
Aye.
Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
The motion is adopted. Are there any other motions? Trustee Galutario.
Thank you, Chair. I move to amend the OHA Biennium Budget for fiscal years 2026 and 2027 by modifying line 8,093 on page 183 of attachment 4, decreasing the proposed amount from $786,800 to $668,800 for the Department of Native Hawaiian Health, John A. Burns School of Medicine, Kanaka Oiwi Physicians Workforce Development Program. Now, this amendment reflects a formal request from Dr. Kaholokula at the medical school to revise the funding proposal to the updated amount due to their receipt of a recent federal grant. So move.
It has been moved to amend the OHA Biennium Budget for fiscal years 2026 and 2027 by modifying line 8093 on page 183 of attachment 4, decreasing the proposed amount from $786,800 to $668,800 for the Department of Native Hawaiian Health, John A. Burns School of Medicine, Kanaka Oiwi Physicians Workforce Development Program. This amendment reflects a formal request from the medical school and Dr. Kaholokula to revise the funding proposal to the updated amount. Trustees, are there any discussion? The amendment is on the screen. Hearing no further discussion, we'll proceed to a vote. A simple majority of the vote, that is 5 affirmative votes, is required for passage. All those in favor of approving to amend the OHA Biennium Budget for fiscal years 2026 and 2027 by modifying line 8093 on page 183 of attachment 4, decreasing the proposed amount from $786,800 to $668,800 for the Department of Native Hawaiian Health, Johnny Burns School of Medicine, Kanakawiwi Physicians Workforce Development Program, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions?
I would like to discuss.
Roll call
that.
vote.
Trustee Ahuna? Trustee Akaka? Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa? Yep. Trustee Galuteria? Trustee Lindsay? Trustee Souza?
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e?
Yes.
Chair Kahele? You have 6 yes votes.
Trustee Suga.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move to amend the OHA Biennium Budget for fiscal years 2026 and 2027 by removing line items 8289 on page 186 and line 8381 on page 189 for the Malama Honua program, and instead reallocate those funds to the following Hawaiian-focused charter schools. Line 8489 on page 192, column H, increasing funding for Kawai Hona o Kana'awau from $176,500 in fiscal year 26 to $275,900. And on line 8622 on page 202, increasing funding for fiscal year 27 from $176,500 to $275,900. The total financial grant for Kawai Hona o Kana'awau for the fiscal year biennium budget will be $551,800. Line 8494 on page 193, column H. I'd like to increase funding for Kanu Ka'aina from $176,500 in fiscal year 26 to $269,493. And on line 8627 on page 204, increase funding for fiscal year 27 from $176,500 to $269,493. So the total funding, total financial grant for Kanu Ka'aina for the fiscal biennium budget will be $538,986. Also, line 8496 on page 192, column H, increasing funding for Kikula o Navahi o Kalani o Pu'u from $176,500 in fiscal year 26 to $275,900. And on line 8629 on page 205, increasing funding for fiscal year 27 from $176,500 to $275,900. So the total financial grant for Kikula o Navahi o Kalani o Pu'u for the fiscal biennium budget will be $551,800. Also, line 8490 on page 194, column H, increase funding for Kamaile Academy from $176,500 in fiscal year 26 to $274,300. And on line 8623 on page 203, increasing funding for fiscal year 27 from $176,500 to $274,300. So the total financial grant for Kamaile Academy for the fiscal year biennium budget will be $548,600. Additionally, Mr. Chair, I would also like to propose adding a line item in the fiscal year 26 budget under the S&I Educational Pathways Program for $50,000 to support the 23rd annual Kui'ika Lono 2026 Indigenous Education Conference, and a line item in the fiscal year 27 budget under the same program for $50,000 to support the 24th annual Kui'ika Lono 2027 Indigenous Education Conference. Furthermore, in column P, for both added line items are proposed inserting the following budget proviso language. Now it reads, the Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation and the Director of Education and Cultural-Based Learning shall plan and execute the Ku'i'ika Lono Indigenous Education Conference and present the proposed implementation plan to the Board of Trustees no later than October 1st, 2025. Finally, Mr. Chair, I propose allocating the remaining balance of $620,814 to OHA's Reserve for Disaster Aid fund by adding $310,407 to line 8526 on page 200. That's for fiscal year 26, and $310,407 to line 8660 on page 211 for fiscal year 27. And reason being, Mr. Chair, is this would increase each line item to a total of $460,407 per fiscal year. This allocation will strengthen OHA's preparedness and response capacity in the event of unexpected disasters impacting our lahui.
Chair.
Trustee Souza, Chair Emerita Lindsay.
Um, the distribution is going to be done by Kalo?
Currently, we have two contracts with Kalo. The first contract is a per pupil funding contract that actually ends this fiscal year. The second contract for Kalo ends next fiscal year.
Oh,
But currently, right, so Kalo still continues under the second contract that they have, which is the facilities contract, which appropriates $150,000 to all 17 Hawaiian-focused charter schools. They'll continue to do that. But the way forward that we are proposing here is to be able to recoup the administrative costs that are currently spent for the Kalo contract, increase every single Hawaiian-focused charter school in the state. In some cases, a lot more than they're getting,
yeah.
especially these four. And part of going through this process was out of the 17 Hawaiian-focused charter schools, 13 of them were getting more money than they had ever received before under the Kalo contract. But 4 got less because of the per pupil funding, including the one that my 2 daughters go to, Hawaii.
I knew your daughters were at
By
there.
reallocating the funding as the trustee is proposing, we are not only restoring what each one of those 4 charter schools had lost, but giving them an additional $100,000 almost to their funding. And then the Kui Kalona conference is very, very important. But we want to be
Yes,
involved in that.
I've been to one of them, so I understand what
But
that
allocating
conference.
$100,000 to both of those conferences and taking that in-house is a good thing. And that's what basically the chair is proposing, and whatever the remaining balance is, which is $600,000 or so, we'll allocate that to the disaster relief fund that right now only has $150,000 in each line item.
Okay,
That's just not enough. Something like Lahaina happens, we have to have resources to help our people.
thank you.
Trustees, any additional questions or discussions on the motion before you?
Oh.
Sorry, Trustee Souza.
Madam Mr. Chair, first of all, I want to mahalo Chantel. Thank you for providing those numbers. We could see the breakdown of which schools were getting less, in the future. And, we've got all these calls and testimony, right? And we wanted to make sure that the facts are before us. So Chantel, thank you so much for providing that spreadsheet. And because of that, we can move forward with an amendment. So thank you.
Yeah, the other thing I'll add in is what we're proposing is giving the schools, all 17 of them, the flexibility to use the resources for programmatic and facilities funding in both fiscal years. We empower the teachers and the principals and administrators to deploy the assets the best way they know how. Under the current contract, it's per pupil programmatic funding year 1, facilities funding year 2. There's also a lot of reporting requirements that frankly, I believe came from a previous time in an administration that was a lot more dependent on maybe a lot of bureaucratic red tape. We also didn't have the capacity several years ago when there was a significant reorganization. We do now. We have the people that can do this. And I think getting out into the community, our staff going into the charter schools every quarter to meet with the administrators, to meet with the students, to see how we can best help them real time is a good thing. And that's what this provides. We also support Kalo in many other ways and Kanu Okaina in many other ways, and we'll continue to do that. But at the end of the day, the charter schools are getting less funding because of the funding reductions in the federal funding cuts. If this administration continues to fund Indigenous programs and the Department of Education's Office of Native Hawaiian Education that gets significant amount of federal funding, gets funding cuts, they're going to depend on us. And this is an opportunity to give them a significant amount of resources, reduce bureaucratic red tape, and just let them do what they do best, which is improve their schools and teach our keiki.
Well, some of the schools may get their own facilities and therefore they can use the money for more programs.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Trustee Akaka?
So, is it the understanding that we do want to continue to engage and have Kahlo represent the funding?
So right now,
allocate.
Kahlo has two contracts with us. And like I said, one of those contracts,
Are we actively trying to further it beyond the end date?
well, right now, they have a contract that exists all the way through next year, and that's that facilities contract. Nothing alters that contract,
The per pupil part?
Right. the per pupil part.
So how are we going forward with that?
What do you mean? How are we going?
Administration will,
You mean specifically regards to the contract? Well, I mean, every year, a new contract would have to be, to go through the regular procurement
Mhm.
process. And
Mhm.
so Kahlo could compete. Well, they would not be able to compete for this particular one because we're taking it in-house. And by taking it in-house, we can give more money to the schools.
do we have the capacity, does the staff currently have, or in the near future, have the capacity to do quarterly visits?
I hope so. We have a big travel budget. I mean, we should, right? What is wrong with that?
And how we landed on these numbers by per pupil by the school
You know
is
what?
by Chantel's spreadsheet?
That is a terrific question. So what we did was, and the product was actually produced from our SNI administration. They provided the analysis of what was being proposed. And there were 4 schools that were red. They were getting the reductions. Yeah. So what we did was we looked at the 13 that were getting significant increases. We averaged that median percentage-based increases of the 13 that were getting increased funding. And we applied that same analytical reasoning and median to the 4. And that is exactly the number we came up with. We didn't make it up. So if you want to talk about equitable, this is the most equitable it can be. And every single charter school in the state, all 17 of them, get more money than they have gotten.
Okay, so we're talking about reporting and quarterly reporting and our staff checking in. I don't know if you heard me, but I was asking to have clarification regarding UH earlier. And it's regarding that very thing. It's regarding reporting. Is it where I would like to know if we are going to support them, that there is a proper reporting system. And if we are providing funds and those funds are not used adequately or what they are provided for, are those funds going to be returned to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs? Those are some of my concerns.
So if you review the contract, the
Great.
Kahlo contract, and we can provide it to you if you like, every single month, data has to be provided. Every month, there's reports that have to be done. Frankly, I think that's too much. Some of these charter schools are very small. Some of them are very big, like Kalehua School or Navahi, right? I think it is reasonable to have a semi-annual and a final year-end report and have quarterly site visits by our staff.
Okay, now going back to the UH JABSOM though, I think there needs to be a proper reporting system. And if they're not going to be using the funds that is provided to them, how is that being returned to OHA? Is there a system in
This is-
place
we're
for
not-
that?
This is, Trustee Akaka, we're not talking about JABSOM.
Can we
This
go
is-
back to that after this then?
I mean, let's just get through this and then we can talk about whatever's next. Trustees discussion, if not, roll call vote.
Kumomo.
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused, Trustee Alapa, Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e,
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, Trustee Akaka, do you have a motion?
Yes, I would like to go back to that page that has the UH JABSOM on it. Is that 1893?
Which, can you just cite the page, trustee?
Here we go, so page 183. Line item 8093.
Okay, I'm sorry, page,
Can we
which page?
183, line 8093 at the
183.
bottom?
Okay,
I'd be interested in doing like what we did with those CIP items where this is a non-OHA item to remove it from it being part of health outcomes. My other concern is regarding proper reporting, like we're talking about for the charters or for these schools. I don't know if they always like the term charter, but the schools that we're providing funding for. And ensuring that if we are providing funding and they are not used, how is that going to be returning to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs? And I have my concerns because when I hear UH, I would like to remind everybody in terms of UH's duty of care to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, the Hawaiian people. And we're constantly advocating in terms of that duty to care. And we just had a press release going out regarding that.
Trustee Akaka, you need to place a motion on the table.
Okay. Well, I would,
It'd be helpful if it is written already. We have one. But we have our staff here that as you dictate, they can type it up.
okay.
But we should really run this with motions and then we
Okay.
can talk.
I could use some assistance on
And
the
we got the
motion.
team here. Yeah.
Okay.
We also have our parliamentarian that can assist you.
Okay, I'm interested in removing this item, line 8093 out of health outcomes. And treat it like how we are treating the CIP, so that if the state would like to partner or another entity in funding the UH JABSOM, I would be interested in seeing what those options are. The state or various
Are
communities
you
throughout the state.
proposing to move it to another place in the budget? You said out of health outcomes. I still don't understand what your motion is. I
Yeah,
think
you
need
know,
to Read
I
your
think-
motion and just make your motion.
I think it would be helpful if I had in front of me how that motion went, that very first motion regarding those CIP projects.
It's right there. the
The
CIP
CIP projects ones, so I can have it next to each other. Because originally how this was introduced to us, it was all a clump, one clump. Of non-OHA CIP.
So, trustee, are you suggesting that we take the Department of Native Hawaiian Health request for support out of our budget and make them compete for it?
You know, I want to be very clear. All of these motions, I was not privy to this beforehand, so I'm trying to familiarize myself and make sure
Okay.
things are all in alignment.
Trustee Souza?
Mr. Chair, I would like to, in regards to what Trustee Akaka just said, I don't think any of us was privy to these motions. We all are having the opportunity to make an amendment
How
at
did
this time.
How are you guys provided it then, if you weren't privy to it? Because I didn't get a copy. You have a printed copy? I
I
don't have
printed
that.
my own. This is my amendment.
Those are your own personal amendments?
These are
That
my
was your-
amendments. Everyone has the opportunity, Trustee Akaka, to prepare an amendment today, or multiple for that matter. Thank you.
Trustee Akaka, if you'd like, we can come back to you.
Yes, thank you.
Does anyone else have another amendment? Trustee Ahuna? Okay, so if I, it's my, yeah. It's probably, if you look in, I'm sure the travel worksheets, and this would be under. You know what, I'm gonna ask Koike, because I know he's very familiar with this. The repatriation trips to go to Paris and Berlin, Koike, where are those, is that normally in? Compliance. It's in compliance, okay, so it's gonna be in the compliance budget. We can identify the compliance budget's travel requests. If you have the page number, that would be very helpful. This would be under international travel. You can cite the page number on attachment 4. That would be helpful.
Just notice that the request for repatriation went down from 43,622 to 19,000. I'd like to make an amendment to get it back up.
Let's get the, if you don't mind, just let's get all on the same page.
Okay, yeah.
I still haven't even found it yet.
Sorry. It's 164, 165.
No, if you can please reference this document, trustee Ahuna, the budget that we have in front of us.
Okay, shucks.
I know this is the one that has the proviso language about establishing memorandums of understanding with some of our repatriation community partners.
Sorry, I was on the wrong page.
Can anyone help us? How are we doing back here, gang? Yeah, I don't know. I went page by page in the travel worksheets and I can't find it.
Compliance. Trying to.
What page is that?
So much papers. Let me find that thing.
Scroll to the
This
bottom.
one right here, the,
Okay, we go to page 269. 269 of the current budget. There it is, travel worksheets, attachment 4. There are 2 proposed repatriation trips. We are on page 269 of attachment 4 of the budget, documents. And line 1 is the Paris repatriation consultation for Hui Iwi Kuamo'o. The destination is Paris. The estimated total cost of the trip was $6,765, as well as the Berlin repatriation. Maybe Koike, you can come up and
Yeah.
provide us some context about these trips.
I would like to make an amendment.
Kamakana, if he's here. Hold on.
Yeah, okay. And there's a reason why, I mean.
Hey, Kamakana. Why don't you come up, Kamakana? So Kamakana, one of the feedback that was brought up was the dollar amount that we're currently discussing allocating to these 2 trips for repatriation planned in the FY 26 fiscal year. And I think trustee Ahuna wants to make an amendment to increase the funding if that's what you need to get these trips done.
Yeah, I'm looking at my original request that had gone in. And we had requested, I think, $26,107 for Berlin. And $8,672 for Paris.
Sorry, can you say that once more?
We had requested $26,107 for Berlin.
Okay.
That was to cover myself and several Maui practitioners.
Yep.
And also, there is cost involved in bringing the ki'i back themselves. We
Okay.
need to buy a seat for those items. So that was all built into the cost. And so that's why Kuike had raised it this morning in his
Sure.
testimony. And
And what about Paris?
the Paris, we had requested $8,672. It's not too far off from 7,870.
Sorry, 8,000 what?
$672.
Okay. $8,672. And you have no repatriation trips planned in 27, just for the board, at least for now?
I've only been trying to schedule them out by each year.
Okay.
The cases can be a bit unpredictable, especially with international parties, and so that's why I've kept it that way instead of 2-year projections.
Okay, and I know one before I yield to trustee Ahuna, one of the things that has come up is trying to establish some type of memorandum of agreement, understanding with our repatriation partners. Is that something that just for OHA's liability sake and things, is that something that we can work on or is realistic?
It is something that we've been actively working towards. We've actually had something drafted up and it's with the other parties right now. It's currently not satisfactory to them, and so we're going through that process. So
Okay.
trying to figure out what satisfactory looks
Okay,
like.
okay. Trustee Ahuna.
This is only
To amend it to the original, back to the original, number that you had. Didn't you guys,
I mean, I can read it for you, but if it's your amendment, then you can make the amendment.
well, after listening to Quickie, did you guys need more? I mean, what was that?
Mahalo, trustee. And I
When you
just-
bring back the things, what do you do with it? I mean, you can't take it home. You gotta put it somewhere, right?
you know, best practice is when we bring, I guess, iwi kupuna home, that we kanu them, as soon as possible. However, when we deal with mea kapu and mea makamai, there must be a secured facility for them to land.
Yeah.
And so that local consultation, if we can call it, between us and community partners who have the facilities and infrastructure in place, that is similar to what the museums require, what our international partners would require. Yeah, that consultation takes a little time. So that could happen virtually, but most times the site inspections, the community consultations in those communities have to happen face to face. And that's not necessarily reflected in this budgetary request. So an increase in that ceiling would be amenable to us as the practitioners and to us as staff here. However, I just want to say for the record, what I said earlier today, there's a gap about $8,000 because it also included repatriation to Chicago that's scheduled for the next fiscal year. And that hasn't been discussed yet here. So if your original request of amount was 43,622, yeah, and if it's showing you guys when you're doing the math that there's a gap of 8,000 and some change, that's why. So I would kindly, humbly request that you guys consider that restore.
So, I mean, just so I'm understanding and tracking, and I think what Trustee Ahuna is getting at is to restore the numbers that that Kamakana stated, which would be $26,107 in line number 1 on page 269 of attachment 4, and $8,672 in line number 2 on page 69 of attachment 4. Is that what you're thinking, Trustee Ahuna? Yeah. You want to read that motion?
For the record, this is Kuike. Again, yes, trustee.
I'm
You-
sorry, I didn't hear everything. So I recall what you said in your testimony earlier today in terms of that figure of 43,000. Huh? 622. Okay. Instead of that 19,000.
Okay, Trustee Ahuna, Summer will bring you you can just read it. No problem.
So Chair, I just want to be clear,
Chair Amrita?
this money is for our people to travel, right? Not for outsiders.
So that's a great question. I'm gonna defer them to answer, but the answer is, I guess what you mean by our people. You mean
Well, the
OHA
reason-
or our OHA staff?
Our staff. The reason I ask is because I know the trip they went on, 20 more people went at their expense. So I don't think that we should be paying for outside people. Maybe
you-
they're just going for vacation. I don't know.
I'll give you my opinion. So I definitely think that OHA staff should be funded.
Yes.
And there is some value, I think, in non-OHA staff, in these particular trips, just like we have non-OHA staff going with us to Tahiti in 3 weeks. for the Raro Matai Festival.
Yeah,
So. I
but
mean,
this happens a lot. I mean, you know,
And I think the message to Kamakana and Koike is we want to support you, but the trustees would like to know a lot more ahead of time when trips are being planned, who's planning on going. If, as long as OHA's liability is protected and that we have memorandums of understanding and agreement with these various organizations that do repatriation that are very important for our people. But I think we have to tighten up the process a little bit and have more information earlier to the trustees.
well, they always tell us, Kamakana always tell us who's going.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is more than them went on the last trip and those people paid their own. So I don't want it to be mixed up with our expenses.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay, trustee Hona,
Okay, I'd like to move to amend line item.
turn on your microphone, please.
I'd like to move to amend line item 1 on page 269 of attachment 4 from 6,765 to 26,107. And line item 2 from 7,870 to 8,672.
Roll call vote on trustee Ahuna's amendment. Oh, I'm sorry, trustees discussion. Hearing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused, Trustee Alapa, Trustee Galuteria, Trustee Lindsay,
Aye.
Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Trustee Wahehe, Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Trustees, are there any other motions? Any other amendments? Trustee Lapa.
Yes, really quick question regarding the monies now removed from the home repair project. Where would we be replacing that for our people in preparation for addressing our housing?
We have, so when we started this process,
Mhm.
we have a 269,776 surplus in the core. Trustee Galateri added about $100,000 back into that. So that current plus up, without like being specific, is at least $369,000 approximately. We also reallocated funds to the disaster aid. So right now, I think as it stands, and Ryan can give us the real-time number, there's at least a net positive in the FY26 of about $360,000. And then in the FY27, we have a serious amount of surplus, well over $4 million. And so if you want to make a motion, trustee Alapa, we will be happy to entertain that.
Absolutely. That sounds really encouraging with 4 million plus.
So if you
in
want to do
27.
something for home repair in FY26, I suggest Ryan give us the top line number that we have now. And trustee Alapa, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ryan. Okay,
Oh, okay.
so and then I will say though, trustee Alapa,
Yes.
if I'm looking at page 12 of attachment 4, there is a $3,988,106 surplus in the core. So you can propose an amendment at least for FY27 on home
That.
repair. There are more resources here than in 26.
Okay,
And
that
if you have
sounds
an
great.
amendment, you can propose it.
Yeah, as soon as he, yes.
She can, if you want to propose an amendment, you can explain your program and how you plan to have it allocated
Okay, yes. Now?
whenever you're ready.
Okay,
It would be
so-
helpful to have your motion.
Okay.
We can pause, so you can lay that on the table, and then we can have a robust discussion about what you would like to provide funding for,
Okay,
so
so-
that trustees can ask
So
questions.
can I have the proper wording verbiage for that? In my God, there's like to make a
Still up,
move to motion.
Our attorney's gonna come and
Okay,
help
great,
you
yes.
on your
Yeah, 'cause I
motion.
wrote it down. I want to make sure I did it correctly. So what I'm trying to do is making sure that we can get those monies that was taken out of the Malama Honolulu and put into the schools. Yeah, and now there's more money in there, but he's saying there is in there in our.
There's excess.
Yeah, so what I
want to.
craft, yeah.
any, you wanna?
Chair.
the budget, anytime
Are we-
there's a line.
Are we still going to entertain some of the
So-
SNI programs that was cut?
Want to make, let's talk.
Okay,
Culture Court, no restorative justice. You have the amendment.
I
It'll be
want
very
that
helpful
one.
if the amendment is drafted. That'll make it very easy. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
what is important though is if we're using the excess we have now, that's what we have now, unless you are defunding something else and reallocating in 26.
You know, it's miss.
I think we're on our way. Can you make that? Sure. You ready? Okay. Okay, I think Chair Emerita, you have a motion? Okay,
I do. I'd like to make a motion to move the SNI PIA back to the E CEO.
are you referring to the Senior Director of SNI?
Yes,
To move the line of authority from, as it's currently proposed, back to the CEO?
yes.
Okay. Trustees, do we have any discussion on moving the proposed reorganization of the SNI director as it's currently proposed under the Chief Operations Officer back to the CEO and keep the Senior Director of SNI in the executive leadership team?
That's SNI under this.
Yes. Yes. Trustees, any discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna,
Yes.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused, Trustee Alapa,
Yes.
Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay,
I,
Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e. Is he here?
Next.
Chair Kahele
Aye. Trustee White is here.
and Trustee Waihe'e. This is a
You say aye.
motion to move.
Trustee
eight-
White, aye.
Okay, mahalo.
Court is nine. Thanks,
Eight-
Chair
eight-
Emerita.
8 yes.
Trustee Alapa, you ready? Okay, does another trustee like to make an amendment? Trustee Hona? Okay, Souza.
So move to make an amendment.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move grants back under community engagement.
Okay, Chair Emerita has moved to move grants back under community engagement. Any discussion on that?
Community engagement
Department,
department. Grants not separate.
it is right now.
So
They fall under.
Chair, if you don't mind, I'm not supportive of that, so I'd like to hear your justification of why.
Well, I just think that SNI got so much to do And it would be good for them to be separated and have the grants be more of an independent PIA. I think they make better decisions by themselves as far as proposals to the board.
Okay, trustees, do you mind if I ask a question? You can go to your budget worksheets. And if we can go to page 170, 170 of the budget worksheets. So I just want to explain a possible ramification of that. I do think grants should be integrated with S&I. That's my own humble opinion. I think there would be much better integration with the grants and the team that we have in S&I. If you look at line item 7531, and we never talked about the salaries and how they are depicted in this budget, but on page 170, line number 7531 of attachment 4, the Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation was not one of the re-leveled positions requested by the administration on June 2nd. The administration kept that position at its same salary rate, which is significantly lower than what it is proposed now. The reason why the increase in that salary is there in line M is because of the added responsibility for grants. So if we move grants, then I think it's fair we need to cut that salary back to where it is. The other thing is we're also adding a merit-based increase to that salary of 3% to 5%. So it is a significant cost reduction, but it also is the current level of responsibility. And so that was one of the reasons why the Budget and Finance Chair and myself felt that with the added responsibility in Kuleana of grants with S&I, that it warranted a significant increase in funding, even though the administration did not ask for an increase in funding for that position.
Okay, I did not consider the salary. I was just considering the activity within the grants department. So can we ask the CEO what she thinks about what you just said?
Absolutely.
Mahalo, Chair Emerita. Mahalo, Chair. So as the testimony was presented from the grants manager and the community engagement director, the functionality of the BSAs with the grants program, they work hand in hand. And again, that's not to say that they wouldn't be coordinating and collaborating with S&I, but the functionality of the roles and the programmatic and services that are delivered by beneficiary services and our grants are more similar and complementary than it is with S&I.
So you,
And that is the request of that PIA.
so you're okay with the board cutting the salary of that person?
Well, I think salaries should be equitable across, across
So
the
Chair,
executive
Chair
team.
Merida, just for context, the current salary position, not talking individuals, the position, right? Because anybody can potentially serve in that position, is currently $128,592. So if we do the math on that, which if we do that actually gives us more money that maybe Chair Lapa can use for home repair. So it's an increase. It's a net positive to the budget if we do that reduction. But let me give you that exact number right now.
So Chair, I think this was the earlier point about those who came in last year that were not considered as part of the releveling, that they would be considered for merit so that they would be able to see at least a cost of living increase in 26. Because those folks were not considered.
So the delta, Chair Emerita, in that is $24,117. So what we could do is if we move grants back, we could reduce the salary back to where it is, but include it in the merit-based increase.
Okay. I'd like to see the
I'd like
grants.
to, does S&I have any feedback on that? The Director of S&I have any feedback?
Elena, you want to come up?
Oh, Mike, sorry.
Sorry, Mahalo Chair, Elena Farden, Senior Director for SNI. It would be in support that there would be merit pay available for the SNI staff considering the work and the workload that they have to do to execute on Mana'i Mauliola. Is that the discussion here at the table at this time? Mhm. What is,
Discussion is, Chair Merida has proposed to move back and take out of the SNI grants as is currently proposed in the reorganization. The reason why the increase in salary of almost $25,000 for that individual who runs the SNI team is because of the added responsibility. We're gonna move grants back to the community engagement PIA, then we're gonna propose to reduce that salary back to what it currently is. Merit-based salaries are not included in the FY 26 calculations, but they are in 2027.
Mahalo Chair for the clarification. I'd be in favor of that to allow grants to move back to community engagement if without that added kuleana or responsibility of overseeing grants, then that would make sense to move that 25,000.
I still think I'd like to see it integrated, but if it's the will of the board, then I'm happy to support that.
Chair, are you still offering the merit for
27,
20? Oh, I thought you said 26.
it was 27, right? There were no merit-based increases for 26, it was for 27.
Right, but there's a grouping of individuals that were hired 1 year ago that will have to now go 2 years without seeing any increase. Because they were not included. So it's the new directors, senior directors that came on, as well as all of the SNI staff. Well, they'll have to go 2 years without seeing any cost of living or merit or anything.
Well, how about we take that up on
Okay.
another motion? I think the motion right now is
Fair
to-
enough.
to move
Mahalo.
the grants back to community engagement. And, well, no, trustee Emerita, made, huh? Oh, yeah, that's separate. So this is just to functionally move that back to grants. Is that the motion, Chair?
That is, we didn't vote on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vote, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna,
Yes, yes.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused, Trustee Alapa,
Yes.
Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Trustee Wahehe, Chair Kahele.
All right,
We have 8 yes votes.
okay. I would like to make an amendment, and this is gonna require the financial team to recalculate. Line 7531 on page 170, attachment 4. For the Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation, make an amendment to column M. The base salary of $159,365 will be reduced to $128,592. That will also require a reduction in the fringe and a total reduction in column O. I'm sorry, hold on. I'm reading the wrong one. I was reading the 27. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Let me take that motion back. It is that okay?
You never finished. the
I never
motion.
finished. Okay, great. Let me restate that. Page 169, trustees, attachment 4, line 7436. This is for fiscal year 2026. The Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation. The proposed salary in the budget is $159,365. Since that added responsibility is now not part of SNI, we will reduce that salary to $128,592. That will also require a reduction in the fringe and the total personnel salary in column L. I think we adopt that. And then if we want to talk about merit-based salaries, we can do that. Is there any discussion on that? That's fair? Roll call vote.
We have that on the screen.
Roll call.
Trustee Ahuna, Trustee Akaka,
What am I voting on? Because I'm hearing that it's regarding fringe and,
Right there.
okay.
I can come back to you. Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa. Yes. Trustee Galutaria. Trustee Galutaria. Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e. Chair Kahele.
Aye.
And Trustee Akaka.
Okay. Aye. She doesn't-
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, now let me do the 2027. So now we're on page 170, line 7531. Fiscal year 2027, same position. Amending column M, which is 159,365 to 128,592. That will affect column N, the fringe, and column O, the total position. And the merit-based increase is in there, but that will also affect the 3% and 5% merit-based increase. But the actual dollar amount that triggers the rest of it is the 128,592, and that is at parity with 26. That cleans that up. Questions? Roll call.
Trustee Ahuna.
Aye.
Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e. Chair Kahele.
All right,
You have 8 yes votes.
right, trustees, any more amendments? Trustee Alapo.
Chair Kahele, at this time, I'd like to make amendment to reinstate original org chart assignment and to the community engagement position to move one of the 2 proposed Hilo BSA positions back to Oahu as originally proposed due to the volume and intake of community events on Oahu, justifying a greater need for additional BSAs on Oahu. And I believe we had a testimony on that today.
So trustee Alapa,
Yes.
as the organizational chart for FY 26 currently proposes, we have 3 Oahu BSAs on the island of Oahu, plus the beneficiary services manager. But 3 BSAs on Oahu. And the proposal is to move one of the Hilo positions to Oahu.
Yes.
The only reason I'm opposed, can I
Yeah.
speak? Yeah, the only reason I'm opposed to that is we closed the Kona office. All we have is Hilo. And we are basically going remote, doing satellite locations throughout the entire Big Island. We only have 1 BSA that's there now, and that's a person sitting at the front desk. Now, that individual has to go out and cover down on satellite community meetings. Nobody there to answer the phone. We got to pull somebody from the back office to do that job. So I really feel like this new model of remote satellite OHA out in the community presence is a good thing.
Yeah.
And it needs BSAs to do that job. I mean, it's a big island.
Totally agree based on the new concept of what we're trying to achieve to get out into of our Lahui. I know the capacity as far as the immense amount of activities on the island of Oahu and the population would call for an extra. Can we just hire an extra one? Can we add that to the proposal? So that you will retain 2 for Hilo and 1 more for Oahu?
Right now, with the 1 BSA, we have had to shut down the Hilo office when that person is sick. Like, no can open the door.
Dang.
And that is why the proposal is the way it is. We currently have 1. The proposal in the budget is to add 2.
Okay,
Oahu currently has 3.
is that okay? Can you, just to recall what you had mentioned, I want to make sure that we have that correct
You gotta recognize it. Huh? You gotta recognize it.
regarding
yeah.
that.
So. we should-
Trustee
we should
Alapa
request.
should request, and then I can recognize.
Okay. May I request to have our Lisa share a little bit more info on that
Sure,
particular?
Lisa, you recognize. You're welcome.
I know.
Mahalo trustee for asking this question. With regards to the Hilo office, one of the factors is our beneficiary services manager is in Hilo. However, she has not been able to help cover during this time period. But we do see a great need on Oahu. There's a lot of requests for our community presence, and at the time we haven't received personally through our BSAs this request per se to have more staff in Hawaii Island. But to Chair's point, because the beneficiary services manager has not been on island, there has been issues with regards to being able to provide that coverage. But hoping that once we get the manager back in position, then we'll be able to manage the need of the office at this time. But as trustee had mentioned, our greatest need right now is on Oahu and being able to meet the requests that have been brought to our attention here on this island, on this moku.
That answer your question? As I will comment on that. The beneficiary services manager, like if we're not talking an individual and the position, I mean, that position could be here. And arguably it probably should be here. So to say that if we get the beneficiary service manager back, they can cover down in Hilo, like that's not a long-term good plan. And one BSA is not enough, because that BSA is the only one to go out and staff these satellite community meetings, community pop-up OHA satellite offices. So by having three, you have one person that always sits at the front desk, opens the door every day, answers the phones, engages with community. They are the face when community walks in. And then you have the other two that are going out, doing all the satellite pop-up locations that are utilizing the vehicle and setting up in these various different satellite locations that we're doing. That was the point of having three. Because if the BSM is here on Oahu, that's four. So I personally am still not supportive of that. Trustee Souza?
Well, Mr. Chair, at this time, I feel that we should be taking the recommendation of the island trustee, who understands the office, who understands the geographic locations right now, Hilo versus Waimea, Kona, and the needs, because there are concerns from our beneficiaries who live on the neighbor islands, especially with OA's headquarters being here, and the amount of people that are able to serve them in the day-to-day. So I disagree, and I do support having those two positions on Hawaii Island. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Trustee Souza.
Can I recognize Kehau to speak on this particular matter? Kehau?
Aloha, Kalawai. So I did want to speak on this matter. So first of all, with this proposal, there would be three beneficiary services agent positions on the Big Island, along with three that we have here on Oahu. I would urge this committee to consider moving one back to Oahu. That was part of our original request. There was a vacant BSA position in Kona, but we did move it back here to Oahu, and we have filled that position, but it's currently interim. And there hasn't been any movement on it. I do think I understand Mokupuni o Hawaii is huge. You have just as many beneficiaries, and I love the effort of us getting out. But right now, where our satellite plan is 3 Fridays out of the month. And I understand we are going to make an effort to increase that. But we are already seeing such a huge need here on Oahu. We currently have a temp receptionist that we also use as, to help us support the beneficiary services work. So I would strongly urge this board to consider moving one of the positions. We're not saying both, just one, so that you would have two on the Big Island. And then there would be 4 here on Oahu. And again, but with the 4, there is a third that is temporarily on hold. I believe that person is out on leave. But it was part of our original request to have that additional position. We are, looking at, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but we are trying to look to bring on some of our temporary staff who have been here for over 6 months on long-term. And so that is part of the hope with this request.
Cal, can I ask a question? What if we added another BSA?
I was just gonna say that.
I would love that.
I was just gonna say that.
Are you supportive of that?
I, kako.
Trustee Akaka?
Speaking of that exact sentiment, my mind is going to Lanai. I know that when we were last there, it was shared by various beneficiaries in terms of not having an office space there anymore. And in discussing with them what could be some of the options, I know maybe one of the solutions was having one of the BSAs from Molokai visiting at least monthly or bi-monthly, twice a month, and having whether it's a government space or a public space that can be rented, but that be accounted for and considered, or to ask if the person that served in that position before, if they are available and interested.
I think,
But the office still has a signage as if it was closed yesterday.
I think that's a great discussion to have. If you don't mind, we'll just focus on this and then we can come to that. So I'm looking, trustees, on page 86. This is attachment 4. I'm sorry, that was FY 27. 82. Page 82 of attachment 4 are the BSAs. And the Hawaii Island BSA positions are 66,876, and you have Oahu 62,904. I'm assuming that's a starting. So it looks like the starting is a 62,904. So we could add a BSA to Oahu, basically replicating an additional line number 1686 for 26. And we would do the same thing on line 1786 for 2027. Does that be okay, Cal? Can I make that amendment? Or should, okay,
If you can state it properly, because the original motion was to remove the org chart issue, so what you may ask her to do is withdraw her motion
okay. Trustee Alapa, can you withdraw your motion?
so that he can restate it to more applicable.
Gotcha, thank you. So I will withdraw it. Thank you.
Okay. Can I make a motion now?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion, trustees. This is on page 83, attachment 4. I'd like to add, basically replicate line number, row number in column A, 1686. So that would add a beneficiary services agent Oahu 4 with a salary of 62,904, a fringe of 40,416. So column L would basically say the same thing, 103,320. That adds an additional Oahu BSA agent. And then on page 85, attachment 4, we will do the same thing in FY 27 to add a BSA Oahu 4 that would replicate line or row 1786, which is 62,904, and include them in the merit-based salary. Seems like the administration is supportive of that, yeah? Okay. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa,
Yes.
Trustee Galuteria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e, Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
No. The United States, yeah. Okay. Do you have any more amendments? Chair Merida.
Okay, I think we heard earlier from staff that they made an offer for a public policy hire. And therefore, I'd like to ask that we move a public policy advocate position from fiscal year 2027 to fiscal year 26, because the offer is out there already.
You know what page that's on?
Uh,
Anybody know what public policy section of budget is? One six five. Page 165.
Moving the public policy position from 27 to 26 because there's an offer out on a person.
Okay, so you're referring to row 7050 that has public policy advocate number 6. It's currently vacant with 0 funds allocated for 26, but I'm assuming in FY 27 there are funds.
Yeah,
There is funds.
yeah.
6, yeah. Yeah, there is funds. Is that what you're proposing?
Yes.
So there are, just so to clarify, trustee, there are 7048 to 7050 are all the public policy advocate positions. 4 of them are vacant.
Yeah.
2 of them have funding. 2 of them don't. So are you,
I'm referring to one of those that don't.
reasoning is because they've been
Because
made an
they
offer?
made an offer before they saw the budget.
Wouldn't they be filling line number 7048 or 7049, the 2 funded but vacant positions?
There's 3 offers.
And you want to hire all 3?
Yeah, so our team, right, taking to heart the charge to get our vacancies filled, actually was part of those interviews. We did interview several public policy advocate candidates and found 3 that we want to hire. And so we actually have put one of the hiring offers on hold because the budget came out that moved one of the positions from fiscal year 26 into 27. So the ask here is to put it back into 26 so that we can hire all 3 of the PPAs.
So basically, the 7151 on page 167, the funding is there. You want to replicate that on line 7050 for the advocate 6 position,
Yeah,
which I think we can do, but I'm just tracking the numbers in my head, and we're probably getting pretty close now to the top line without other things coming out to fund any other amendments that is there.
yeah, I Mapopo.
Okay.
And there are more amendments that I believe are coming, considering S&I initiatives, but we are trying to look at where we would recommend some reductions. But again, I mean, we can not make the offer, but we have gone through the trouble of
Sure.
interviewing, and we are at the stages where we've signed off on salary offers. So, and this
Okay.
is a critical part of the organization.
Fair. Yeah. Trustee Akaka?
Maybe if we're getting close to those numbers and figures, maybe there needs to be more considerations for motions of reconsideration.
You know,
Right.
motion,
So,
consider whatever you want.
but regarding that specific subject matter regarding public policy and the advocates, in my experience, I can say, having chaired and vice chaired the BAE committee, it is integral. If people want to talk about AI, we got to make sure that these positions are available to us and that we can fill them. That goes hand in hand as well with the DC Bureau, which is on another page, but that is another concern of mine in terms of cost of living in Wakinikona and what they bring in terms of expertise, connections, and subject matter familiarity.
Sure. Okay, so I think I read Chair's Emerita's recommendation. I'm supportive of that. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused, Trustee Alapa,
Aye.
Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Lindsay. Mahalo. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e,
Yes.
Chair Kahele,
Aye.
you have 8 yes votes.
Trustee Souza?
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Souza?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the budget in its current form.
Trustee what?
We're not out. We got some more.
Like, adopt the budget.
Trustee Souza's got the floor. What are you doing?
I want to make a motion to adopt the budget in its current form.
Okay, trustee Souza has the floor. He's placed a motion on the table to adopt the budget as it's currently formed. I think before we do that, I want to know what the number is though from Grace and Ryan. So let's take a quick recess and let our financial analysts get caught up.
I get 1 minute.
Can I ask?
Ask him to withdraw and
Nah.
take it back. Well, I mean,
Okay, we can just wait then.
yeah.
Okay. No, we're not going to recess. We'll just pause and we need to let the financial analysts catch up.
Yeah. So really quick on the Malama Honua, we're still waiting for those numbers. That's all still on the table, right?
Yep.
Okay.
But we do have a motion, so if it doesn't get withdrawn, then we have to vote that. But we need to find out what the number is from them.
We're,
Chair Souza. Trustee Lapa, you ready? You want to do the first part? Yeah, thank you. Wow. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I like one straw. A straw. We'd like to continue. And gonna recognize Chair Souza, Trustee Souza. Trustee Souza has the floor.
Mr. Chair. It was brought to my attention that our trustees were not finished making amendments. So I apologize to the trustees who weren't finished giving amendments. And so because of that, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna withdraw my motion to adopt the budget in its current form.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you, Trustee Souza.
Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Lapa. Prior to earlier this morning, when we were discussing the waiver, there was a discussion that you had initiated about possibly passing a bare bones stopgap measure for the budget. And I just we said we would come back to that. Your sixth vote allowed us to get to where we are now, and we mahalo you for that. But if, we just want to make sure, since it was on the record earlier and we said we would come back to that, and I had said we will come back to that if you change your vote from an abstention to an aye, which you did. No, that was Trustee Lapa. We would give you the opportunity to retract that.
Got it.
So are you retracting your original question to the trustees about
The
a
Kanalua part
stopgap measure, since it seems like we have something, a
going
work
here?
in progress here?
Absolutely. Now that we know we have the opportunity to do all these amendments and so forth,
Yeah.
it has restored my faith in our board that we're able to continue to do this.
Okay.
And I'm very happy that we can continue with our
Continue.
amendments.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
thank
All
you
right.
so much for that.
Thank you, Trustee Lapa.
And thank you, everyone, for that.
I'm going to recognize our Chair Emerita, who has a motion for some vehicles.
I saw in the budget $180,000 for vehicles on Kauai, Molokai, and Maui, and I want to move that we take that off the budget.
That's a question from operations. Hey, Royce. Why don't you come up? Thank you, Royce. Royce, sorry to put you on the spot here, but how many vehicles do we currently have here at Nalama Kukui?
Currently at Nalama Kukui, we have, sorry, five, yes.
5. And then in our other statewide locations, I know there is a truck that was federally funded. Yes, I know Lori Walker uses for Wa'okele Are there any other vehicles that OHA owns on any of the other islands besides the 5 we have here and the truck that was federally funded?
We do have one that's in process of being purchased for Hilo.
Okay.
And that is for our
Satellite.
PSAs to
Yeah.
work the satellite.
What is can you give us is there an update on that? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, so everything is approved. We're just waiting for the final contract.
Great. When do we expect the vehicle to be on the island?
I'm hoping by the end of July.
Oh, great. That's optimistic. Okay. So the chair is, Chair Emeritus is moving, there's $180,000 line item in the budget. The original intent was to put a car on Kauai, on Maui, and on Molokai. We had estimated $60,000 a vehicle. That would include the purchase of the car, the registration, licensing, the decals that were done, as well as the shipping to the neighbor islands. So that was the estimate. And the request is to remove that from the budget, which would add $180,000 to the budget.
Work programs.
I'm supportive of that. Anybody else have any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Trustee Ahuna.
Aye.
Trustee Akaka. Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galuteria. Trustee Lindsay.
Aye.
Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e. And Chair Kahele.
Just before I say my vote, I just want to read the motion, which is to remove line 1052 of $180,000 for FY 26 from the budget. And I vote aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay. We have a net $180,000. Okay, we're gonna go to Trustee Alapa, who has the floor now for a motion, and then back to Trustee Souza. Trustee Alapa, the Malama Honua program, are you ready for that?
If I don't have those numbers for FY 26,
Could make a proposal for FY 27. You know that there's just under 4 million in that.
yeah. But we don't know yet what we have for 26 because looks like they're still totaling things up. If someone else wants to go with their amendments,
Or one thought,
it was the 1.2 or something like that was removed from the housing, the home repair project from Malama Honua, and that went to go fund the charter schools. And so now we're trying to find money to bring it back so we can get our people to help improve the conditions of their homes in this coming 26, 27. And something that we have already shared the process of how that has worked successfully. And we do this through a grant through the administrative side, in which they would be handling the process for that.
well, I think Trustee Alapa, I think it's fair to say, there's $180,000 in FY 26 because our Chair Emerita just put that back into the budget. There are funds in FY 27, so you could make a motion to do that. I think one of the things you need to do to convince me to be supportive of it, and I think the other trustees, is how that this program is envisioned to work in terms of the distribution. Is this statewide? Is this include Hawaiian homestead lands that should be the kuleana of DHHL? I think those are some issues that you have to convince the trustees to be supportive of it.
Right.
But I think your initial motion should be the amount. Then at least we can put something on the table and then we can give you a chance to vet that out.
Well, so now that we know we have 180,000,
That cool.
it's something that perhaps we could use.
Okay. Let me,
round it off to 200,000 as suggested
let
by,
me just put this out. So currently, right now, for FY twenty-six, there's a net surplus of $366,229. And then for FY twenty-seven, there's a net surplus of $3,860,000 and 331. So 3,860,331 in FY twenty-seven and 366,229 in FY twenty-six.
two 250 for 26.
I mean, there's 3.8, yeah. I mean, so you could offer whatever you want to offer, but I think that the substance needs to come after the numbers.
Sure.
So
Yeah, so in regards to what was the proposed number?
you can go 250, and that's a good small pilot project.
Sure. I think that would be fair enough to start
Why
off
don't you
with.
make that motion then?
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to amend the Malama Honua housing repair program it was from 1
Just say-
point.
you just said
Okay,
250, 'cause
two-
that's property,
at
yeah.
250 for 2026 and 250,000 for 2027.
Okay, I think another part of your motion needs to include the proviso language that currently existed in its current form. And if you want to amend that at all, because I don't think there's clarity in that proviso language about how this program is going to be equitably and fairly and transparently distributed. Well, that's up to
Well,
her.
that's what we're focusing on now. When I had mentioned the program that was being instituted on the island of Molokai through donations to grants like your Ho'ohilehua organization, the Molokai Baptist Church, 501c3 and so forth. They have programs that are all about improving the conditions of the homes of these of our Hawaiian people, whether they're on Hawaiian homelands or not. These are the folks that had suffered tremendously health-wise because they live in a home or homes that are filled with mold, so they're sickened quite often. And at the same time, they are not able to live the kind of life that we're all entitled to live without worry about the roof falling down or bugs flying in or being eaten by insects and so forth. So that's what that whole initiative was to help improve the living conditions of the homes that our people live in. Now, through these programs, for example, I work with the Ho'olehua Homestead Association, and they have kind of like a pilot program in which they've worked everything from the numbers where they get they're able to utilize the supplies, discounts they're able to obtain because they are doing things in bulk for these homes. What they do is they go in there and they do an assessment of each of the homes up to X amount of dollars. So let's say $4,000 has been set aside and up to $4,000 worth of repairs. So they'll go in there, do the assessments. They will write down what is of utmost importance first, and then they'll go in there and make that assessment once that's completed. And then they will go out and purchase the supplies. They'll get those who are going to help work on the program, on the project, and then they'll pay them a basic income for that, I believe at $25 an hour. They have all the critical information, the breakdown of how that works. And I thought this would be a wonderful way in which we could address our Hawaiians who also live in despair in regards to the condition of their homes, and at least will address part of the housing aspect of our strategic plan that I don't know of any other type of program currently that OHA is doing for our people. You have been privy to see a video presentation of what that would look like, and it was quite heartbreaking to see how they live. And I would implore you to really consider allowing this program, if you will, the pilot program. And we start with this small amount, but then we're going to obviously have our administration, because it falls under their kuleana, in which we can exercise and do the proper processes for these small grants to go to each of these homes. But it's all going to be based on assessments, and everything is noted before anything is done, any type of
Do you mind
I
if I
guess you could
ask a
say.
clarifying question?
Go ahead.
And I think this maybe what might help. This would actually be to the administration. So
Yeah.
Stacy, whoever you want to
I was
bring up
just
to answer
thinking.
this particular proposal had been in the administration's budget from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, how are you planning to execute it?
Chair, I think that trustee Alapa should meet with administration and design this program, just like how we designed the Maui fires, to, as far as implementing. I think that would make it clearer as to how it's implemented. And maybe the professionals in our administration can assist us in how it's written up.
Are you suggesting maybe not funding it in 26, but putting some money in towards it in 27 and giving the administration time, working with the chair to create the program?
Well, it depends on the timing of the administration. If they're able to, we don't have to start July 1st. We can start August, September,
Sure.
because we only got 500,000 for the first year.
Let's ask Kapo Hana to explain.
Okay. So this has been Trustee Alapa's priority since 2 years, 2 years ago. And administration does want to support her in making sure that we can provide this type of program Pai'aina wide, across the Pai'aina. There's a lot of lessons that have already been learned in her Moloka'i pilot, and we would be taking the information that with the design that has already been implemented in Moloka'i and apply that, whatever lessons learned, whatever partnerships that she's already established, and see how that we can leverage that information for a pilot for OHA.
Thank you for that.
Have a recommendation then in terms of, right now her proposal is 250. Do you want to proviso that so the funds are, well, at least they're funded? Like, how long do we think we could stand this up?
Well, and 250 is not a lot considering that the amount that home repairs are. I think that if we can have the fall to design it, that we could implement come January 1st.
But you can,
And then we can scale up in fiscal year 27.
just out of curiosity, if you're looking at page, so Malama Honua in 26 and 27 are on pages 186 and 189. Is there anything that the administration would want to adjust in the proviso language? I mean, right now, I think the trigger is the bottom where it says program management, including contractor procurement, project oversight, and progress reporting, will be carried out by one or more qualified 501c3 nonprofit organizations with demonstrated capacity to coordinate and execute such projects. Would we want that to stand there, or would we want to edit that?
Home construction is very technical and requires a specific subject matter expertise that I don't think our grants people would know how to project manage necessarily. Again, the model that's being used in Moloka'i, they're utilizing a 501c3 who has experience in home renovation, home repair projects. So we would want to similarly put up a RFP for nonprofits that, like Habitat for Humanity, that's the work that they do. But then again, 250 is not a lot. There will be probably a 10%, 15% administrative cost. But again, making sure that these projects are done right, the reporting is done as OHA would require it. I just think that having a third party do that would be most prudent.
So no suggested language change to the proviso?
Kalamai. No, I think this is sufficient. I mean, again, I'm not a construction person, so if there's anybody around the table or in the room that thinks it should be refined, I'm open to that.
Trustee Lapa?
Yes, just by reviewing this, I believe the language here is all in alignment with the way in which a program of this nature, the monies that are be provided, will meet these standards as what's already currently happening on the island of Molokai for their home repair programs.
Okay.
And I'd be happy if you want, I'd love to have one of them come in and present their numbers, their charts, their everything. So it kind of gives a little something to work off of just in case.
I
There
guess,
you go.
I'm just gonna say this in the interest of transparency that, and I would assume you would agree that if there's any nonprofit that does this work that a current trustee is attached to, they are not eligible
Exactly.
to receive these funds.
Yep.
Yes,
I
that
don't
would be,
want to state the obvious, but I just
yeah,
want to
that
state
is,
it on the record.
yes, absolutely.
Trustee Souza?
Hey, Madam Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to say that we recognize, right, that there are a surplus, I guess, at this point of a couple $100,000. Sorry, $180,000, roughly to be exact, in 2026 and more in 27. I think if everyone else had the opportunity, right, and if we sat here and prioritized where the money should go, I think we would probably invest that money, put the money towards a better program, and not a better program, a program that's more effective at the time. The reason why I question this program, and don't get me wrong, I'm in real estate, I see those roofs, I see, and not only on DHHL land, but what concerns me is the DHHL land. There's no collaboration right now with Kali Watson, right? That isn't any talks of any program being created alongside DHHL, which that concerns me, right? I don't have enough on this project, right? We went to Molokai, we saw the potentially Trustee Alapa's nonprofit or whatever it was, she ran it through and got some grant money, supported these homes, right? Which my family is Molokai, friends of Molokai, they came to testify, but OHA never had a vehicle for this, right? So right now, to me, if most of those homes, especially Molokai, are going to be DHHL land, I would have rather have had a conversation with Kali Watson or proposal, right, in collaboration with Kali Watson. Now, with that budget also being said, I mean, we cannot cover more than Molokai right now. Yes, we did, Trustee Alapa, see the need on Molokai, but there are other islands and also other homes that are not on the HHL land, right? And so I think it's going to take some time, is what I'm saying. So fiscal year 26 to me is too early to establish this program. Fiscal year 27, I'll be more inclined to support it.
Trustee Souza, would you consider this is if we allocated funds in 26, 27? Of course, we have all the background work that's done to establish the program. But we require it to come back before the board as an action item so that all the due diligence can be proven, shown, the conversations with DHHL can be had, and it's still, it will need to come back to the board as an action item to be put into effect, but at least we have put the money aside for it and support the concept. You know, like you mentioned the roofs, you know, you can just drive through Pontiac Homestead and see how bad the homes are there. And it pains me every day because the economic engine of Hilo is Prince Kuhio Mall and Target and Home Depot and Walmart. But our people right across the street have homes that are in disrepair, have blue tarps over their roof. And programs like what you're proposing, I think are warranted. I think they need to be flushed out. And if you would consider it coming back as an action item so that we can now see the meat on the bones, I think that would make trustees, and the sooner we can do that, the better, right? I mean, I think that would be fair. Trustee, Chair?
I think maybe we should have a discussion with Cully and maybe he provide a proviso for what we contribute.
Maybe he can match it.
Yes.
Absolutely. We put 500, they put 500.
Yes. So
I
if
think he has
if a
the highest amount of
repair,
funds to
yeah.
spend down.
Yeah.
if because actually the most dilapidated houses are on Hawaiian homes. I mean, no question there's other, but we're not sure whether Hawaiians are living in other homes. But we know for sure that Hawaiians are living on Hawaiian homestead. But I don't think we should be the ones burdened 100% in repairing it. And that would give Mr. Watson a incentive to, fix some of the houses, especially with the $600 million.
Well, in collaboration with DHHL, we can serve more. We can do more roofs, more houses, right? I agree with that, Chair.
Well, and it's in the, it's
Chair
in the
Merida.
same theme as getting CIP match for these CIP projects. The same theme that we're doing in this budget that has a 1-for-1 match with a NHO.
Yeah.
to provide our DC fellowship. So to your point, trustee, having DHHL at the table commit their resources too, I think is a good thing. Is that something you would entertain, trustee Lapa?
Sure.
Trustee Galatera?
Yeah, fortunately, we have a representative from DHHL sitting in the room.
Oh.
And she's feverishly taking notes. And she promises to get the word back to Kali as soon as the meeting is off.
Thank you, trustee. $250 is what it is right now. Or you could offer to plus it up in 27, prove that it's a solid plan,
It is.
bring all the
Yeah.
stakeholders and partners together.
Okay, so, question, so can the initial part of the 250 for 26 become the starting point of which we can acquire our teams and everything else and what we can do to implement this program? And then we go for broke in 27? Yes. Yes,
Into the buckets.
I would like that. Thank you. I would like that. So it would be a change in 27 because you said the access would be a little more because I know in 26 we're going to show results, and that to me is most important. Is this is results oriented program, and I already know with what I've seen in my own eyes, it is going to work. And I know we have to go through due diligence because we're dealing at a whole different level versus individual and so forth. So if we can do it like that, I would be greatly appreciative. Oh. So what is in 250 for 26 and so no, we're going to we're going to increase it, right? Because we'll have that available. So if we do 250 and 26 as our starting point, and as we on a roll with that in 26, as we get towards 27, we'll have monies available, and the program will prove itself, as I know it has already time and time again, that we can go now for the higher amount of 800, as you had suggested.
800,000. Yeah.
Okay.
I also, it needs to also include language, Alina, that, basically it needs to come back to the Board of Trustees as action item. What committee of purview would be this home? But the committee on jurisdictions would be, which committee, so guess on that? Budget and finance? Yeah, come back before being out? Yeah. That's what trustee, what he says. Yes. You're welcome. Okay, so it needs to come back via the committee and the full board.
Got it.
Final approval.
You would do it as an RP, so yes, it would be like a fee for service.
Yep. Not sole source.
Also, it would depend, how specialized the work.
Get too many contractors,
Right? They know how to, they know how to work.
Oh, we don't want to do fooling too.
Do we anticipate any startup costs for this program? That's helping me make my decision, right? You guys are talking about 250 this year, 500 next year. What is the startup cost that we anticipate? I'm assuming there's no startup cost because this is going to be potentially given to a nonprofit potentially to run, right? And so for us, no cost besides their administrative fees when we.
Correct.
Right.
The admin fee would be separate, right, or carved out from the appropriation. So of course, we're not going to be doing the whole 250 right towards projects.
But I think that would be an action item. So it can be flushed out then and amended then as well.
Correct.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call vote?
No.
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka, I can come back to you.
Said aye.
Oh,
The mic said
mahalo.
aye.
Thank you. Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa,
Aye.
Trustee Galuteria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e, Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Trustee Ahuna, do you have an amendment?
We just found out that in his ask, he asked for key too. And now, because he don't have the money, he can't purchase this key. So the key is something that I think was very important to him. So I'd like to move to amend attachment 4 to include a new line item in 7130 health outcomes under the expense category contracts in the amount of 50,000 in FY 26 for the purpose of securing key and mea kapu.
Second.
And this is supported by our health outcomes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Roll call vote?
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa,
Aye.
Trustee Galuteria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza, Trustee Waihe'e, and Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, let's take a quick pause so we can get the financial analysts caught up with the new home repair program and the key. Trustee Souza is up next. He deferred, he pulled back to let everybody go, so he's got the floor, and then you have an amendment. But let's let these guys catch up so we can get the new top line numbers. Take a quick recess. Let's reconvene at 15 minutes. Well, I don't even know what time is now. 4:45.
They're about ready to come back for 27.
You know, they gave them 3:45. Should wait then.
Yeah.
Gonna give an update. Yeah. Hey trustees, we're not coming back into session yet because I said 4:45, but I just want to give you an update from our financial analyst. So the current top line, the current net positive for FY 26 is 66,229 in the core and 3,360,331 for FY 27. That's what the numbers are right now.
No. So you have 66,000. We just freed up $1 million. Yeah, this just, oh, sorry.
Yes.
4:45, we are reconvening I've spoken to one of our trustees, trustee Waihe, and he indicates that trustee Chair Emerita Lindsay has an amendment.
This is kind of complex. So we do have some allocations in our budget that we would like to reduce so we can make more monies available for stuff that we haven't entertained yet, Chair. So we would like to what page is? Page, Chair, page 138 on that particular page, reducing the contract services 5686 by $100,000.
Page 138,
Yes,
which line number?
57110.
Can you read the big number? Is it the big red number or the small red number?
I don't have any red on this sheet. 260,000 for OHA multimedia campaign. Reduce that by 100,000.
We need this one, the budget.
Actually, what I'm going to propose will release up to $1 million. I mean, whether the board approves it or not, that's our prerogative. But there's been strong recommendation for the Pu'uhonua Restorative Justice Program. 200,000 in fiscal 26 and 300,000 in fiscal 27. You got the pages. Page 129,
129.
multimedia campaign, reduce it by 100,000. And
129, which line? Row? That cannot be page 129, because that's Alama Kukui and 138?
128?
128. No,
No,
138? Okay, 138. No, not 138. I'm sorry, can you describe the project and maybe we can find it?
I said it's the OHA multimedia campaign, one of them.
Okay, so it's gonna be in the communications budget?
Yes,
That starts on page 136. And, okay, I see. OHA multimedia campaign
yes,
to include podcasts, OHA segmented inspired show, short videos, radio inspired PSAs and print media. That's row number 5686. And what are you proposing to reduce that by?
reduce it by 100,000. And it reads high amount of funding for brand building that can be used to support MIMO initiatives that can more directly impact beneficiaries.
Okay, so if you reduce that by 100, then that leaves 160 in there?
Yes,
Comms is okay with that? I mean, not that, I'm just wondering.
Yes, so comms actually didn't put the request in for that, so we would be okay for that. On top of that, in line 5685, there's another $100,000 that we did request
Yep.
for support for new programs. So really, what we could do, Kalamai, is move to eliminate 5685 and just combine the purpose or the expense descriptions with 5686. So you could just eliminate the 100,000, leave 260 in place, but combine the purpose with 5685.
Is in our, just, I mean, just because he's standing right here, comms director, any feedback to, the trustees on that?
I have no problem with the elimination of 100,000.
Okay, so I think to make it clean, you just, the motion would be to delete line 5685. Or, yeah, it's basically zeroed out. You zero out 5685, and then that's a net 100,000 gain, and then 5686 stays intact. Okay,
But could we also just, I don't know, clarify that the purpose would include, well, I mean, it's campaigns, it's podcasts, but it would be to include any communication about new programs, services, initiatives of OHA
you want to just take the proviso in
Yes.
5685 and combine it with
with
5686?
5686. Yes, please.
Okay. So that proposal from the Chair Emerita is to zero out 5685 and move the proviso language in column P and include it in one proviso in 5686.
Yes, and the next one is 57.
Want to just take them one at a time?
Oh, okay. Okay, we can take it one at a time. So move.
Okay, so yeah, you also have, you have it in 27, it's 5777. So that would zero that out as well.
Yeah,
So that's a net of 200,000, okay?
yeah.
Trustees, any questions? Sounds like the comms director is supportive. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna.
Aye.
Trustee Akaka. Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay.
Aye.
Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e. Chair Kahele. You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, so we add Ryan 100,000 to 26 and 100,000 to 27. Great. There.
Okay,
What's the next?
page 138. 5778. 500,000. I propose that we reduce it to 250,000. Funding for multi-year comms plan in fiscal year 27 is excessive. This takes away from ability for S&I programming that addresses strategic outcomes.
Trustee Ahuna.
Aye.
Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galutaria. Trustee Lindsay.
Okay, page 1. Aye.
Thank you. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e. And Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, so Ryan, that adds 250,000 to the 27 core. Okay, trustee Lindsay?
Page 140. And 143. The two,
140?
page 140,
Yeah, which row?
5876. Oh, 5875.
5876. Okay,
Actually, and 5975
5876,
and 5975.
59.
I reduced to 0 and reallocated.
Okay, so 5876, 5975, just so trustees are aware, was one of several estimates that Olelo Community Media provided to both the Budget and Finance Chair and myself when and I believe even Bill, in exploring the possibility of streaming our OHA, every OHA meeting we have, standing committees, Board of Trustees, and our neighbor island meetings statewide. So there was an option to do Oahu. This was the statewide option. I actually really think we should be on Olelo.
Hmm.
I mean, right now, I know that the administrator said YouTube is a global audience. I don't think the global audience is watching OHA.
What is this?
And I really think the voting
What is
or the demographic that
Yeah, for what?
watches Olelo, like they watch the legislature, like they watch the city council, like they watch the heart. I think it's important for them to watch OHA's meetings. So what is the, Bill, do you recall the, was it Russell Yamanoha? Or pull up down, yeah. Maybe we can entertain a reduction and just do the Oahu first,
Hmm.
which was less than the statewide. And they actually come here to shoot it for us. Like they relieve our current IT team from doing what they're doing and show up and provide technical support to do this. So
So, since you were involved in the discussions, what would you recommend the reduction to be?
we're pulling it up right now. Give us a second.
Is that Ron Mizutani?
Yeah, and Russell Yamanoha.
Okay.
Question. Can we clarify that? Motion?
So
He should be adding it, not. Level, YouTube and. Chair, are we trying to eliminate the other methods of media for our meetings and only one source?
no,
Okay,
so to reduce.
oh, okay.
Chair, rather than eliminate entirely.
Uh-huh.
And so this would be broadcast OHA meetings with Zoom hybrid on Oahu only, similar to HART board meetings. It includes approximately 32,000 in equipment. And the services include a director and a producer, 3 technicians, 2 IT specialists, production coordination, and on-site production equipment. We would reduce it to the FY 26 number would be 192,913.14. And the year 2 costs would be 160,913.14. So there is a cost savings there. It's not statewide, but at least it's a start. So it would be, we would reduce 5876 from 279,255 to 192,913.14. And we would reduce
247.
5975 to 160,913.14. And there's probably about 100,000 positive there. And it gets us, I think, moving, in my opinion, in a different direction than what we're used to now.
Yeah.
I mean, and arguably, the biggest population in the state is on this island. There's 1 million residents. A lot of people watch Olelo. Trustee Souza?
Well, Mr. Chair, where are those funds being reallocated to?
We're just freeing it up because there's more amendments to be made,
Oh, okay.
more program
You
amendments.
okay with that rather than
Yeah.
eliminate?
No, whatever we free up is all we can use,
Yeah, okay.
you know?
I think shifting to Olelo, Oahu only would be a
Yeah.
big shift for our board meetings and our trustees. in getting into the homes of thousands of residents of Oahu,
Mhm.
especially those that watch Olelo.
And it would be good to see what effects it brings
Sure.
to our
You know,
agency.
multi-pronged communications
Yeah.
kind of marketing strategy. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
supportive of that.
So page 141.
Wait, let's vote on that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Really quick before we vote on it, just to be clear, we have Olelo, Zoom, and what was the other one? YouTube still going. Those three entities.
I mean,
Media
Zoom and YouTube
forms.
I don't think that costs us much. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, no.
I don't know the figures, so maybe Summer can give us that odd figure that you came up with.
Yeah, I just read them. It's right there. So
Oh, okay.
you would, somebody wants to do the math to figure out, so it's 192, 913, 14. Okay, so in FY 26, that's a savings of $86,341.86. And then in FY 27, when you amend line 5975 to 169.13.14, that is a $86,342 savings for a total net savings of $172,684, in addition to the previous two amendments.
I have one more.
Discussion? Roll call vote?
Oh, you have one more? Oh, wait,
No, go ahead.
Oh,
We're gonna
turn off
vote.
my-
Vote.
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused, Trustee Alapa. Thank you, Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay,
Aye.
Trustee Souza, Trustee Waihe'e, Chair Kahele. You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, Chair Merida, how much more you got?
Page 142, two
Okay.
more.
Two more. Okay, great.
141.
Okay, 141?
Yes, 5937. Advertising,
5937. Okay,
$160,000 media buying. We don't need it. We can put the funds to somewhere else, one of these programs.
yeah, I'm gonna defer to Bill on this one, because I think this was in OHA's, like Paya Comms budget, where we buy media for KS Song Contest, the Merry Monarch, our commercials. Are we talking about, these are the Merry Monarch commercials?
Yes.
Why would we wanna cut that?
Can explain.
Okay, great.
We actually have funds available
Oh.
from a previous budget, and contract purchase order that were covered, that we didn't realize at the time was still available to us. So we won't lose anything. We'll still have all the money we need to buy Merry Monarch and Song Contest commercials through Kalaimoku Group. That's who we have the contract with.
Okay,
So the funding is available. Yeah,
Okay.
we've encumbered it and this is freed up for that.
okay, is there FY 27? Yeah, line 6036.
I
Those
think,
not-
yeah, no. we-
Okay, so
we
this is
did that
just the
as-
26 money.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so our chair's emeritus motion is to zero out the $160,000 in line 5937.
Yes.
It seems that's supported by the comms director, so roll call vote?
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused, Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay,
Aye.
Trustee Souza, Trustee Waihe'e, Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Yes. Page 147, 6079.
6079. Okay.
Market research for comms plan, reduced by 100,000.
Any questions on that? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Which one is this?
It is on page 127, $6079. It would have been a contract for $50,000 to a engagement strategy project that was actually passed to the Research and Evaluation Division to a market research study. We're just reducing it, we're not eliminating it, it's reducing it from 200,000 to 100,000.
Okay.
Roll call vote?
Okay, trustee Ahuna was a yes, trustee Akaka,
Aye.
trustee Akina is excused, trustee Alapa, trustee Galutaria, trustee Lindsay,
Aye.
trustee Souza, trustee Wahehe, and Chair Kahele. You have 8 yes votes.
Yes, I will now make a proposal to restore some of the programs that were cut with the monies that we just saved. Okay.
Just so that Ryan and his team can give us the most current delta. I'm assuming for 26, right? I mean, that's really.
Yes.
Okay.
Negative B. That's what I was.
You want to like use page, right? That's page. Well, you have the page, so you can look, just I can flip to the page number.
No, it's not on the budget because it was taken off. So I'd like to restore it. Yes, this is what he's concerned about.
Chair, I wanted to say, since this next thing issue I wanted to bring up, this nothing to do with money. So I wanted to know if it's possible. I wanted to move to amend the flat org chart. It should be flat, meaning all of us are equal, we're all the same. We do not report individually to a chair and vice chair of the board. And as well as the way in which it's situated, we should all be at the same level, as I understand the structure was like that before. So I'd like to make that change or amendment. Yeah, it's not.
Pause to let the numbers do its thing, so Jeremiah still has the floor.
Okay.
We can come back to that.
Sure.
So I also have trustee Souza and verification, we could put back this motion, so we'll do that. We have some ads that trustee Wahehe is waiting for.
Yes.
Okay. As soon as we get the delta.
I mean, how much did I save? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 5, 10, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, 10. Without this.
Somehow over 260,000. This is still not I gotta take out some.
I don't know. That's why Ryan is adding up.
Page is that?
She is thinking, wait, that else, I'm sorry.
And I was like, I don't know about that.
I will make some proposals, but I just thought I reduced it by 700 and you're telling me I only get 500. Ryan, you folks better be adding it up correctly.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ryan, is that, Ryan Grace, 512, 571? FY 26, Parker, 3,796,673? Okay,
I believe.
program,
The Pu'uhonua Restorative Justice Program,
how much?
200,000
In 26?
in 26 and 300,000 in 27.
Okay, trustees, discussion? Roll call vote?
Trustee Ahuna. Thank you.
Aye.
Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
I'm sorry. Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza.
Oh, well,
I can come,
voting.
I can come right back to him. Trustee Waihe'e. Chair Kahele. And Trustee Souza.
So I'm guessing this is an S and I under which, Paya? What? Health.
Okay, so the only one left to vote for this particular motion is trustee Souza. Oh. Is this a whole, this is not a, it's the same motion. Okay. It was for Pu'uhonua
Yeah.
to
We just
move to restore.
Order where it's inserted. So we're all voted. Do it, so we're out. Yeah. Okay. Aye. Okay.
Mahalo.
Lovely. Next.
Restore 360,000 for fiscal year 26 for the Kulana Aina strategy and $442,600 for fiscal year 27 for that same strategy. And Aule, it's taken out and oh, yeah,
Economic resilience.
It's a contract.
contract. So that's the total of monies that Ryan told you we had.
You couldn't serve it. Give us a number.
360,000 for fiscal year 26.
Yeah.
442,600 for fifth.
42,600.
Yes,
27.
yes.
Okay, so Grace, you could insert it on page 179, attachment 4. That's a roll number 7855. Under the SNI Economic Resilience FIA as a contract for $360,000 in FY 26 to support the proposed Kulana OED program. And then in FY 27, it could be inserted in line 8008. That would be an amount of $442,000. I had something to add, which trustee Waihehe brought up earlier, and it might include, because these are contracts, possibly even amending the Pu'uhonua Federal Justice Program. And what his concern he had raised was that as the program is built out for the contract, however shape or form it takes, that it comes back to the board as an action item. Is that your intent, trustee Waihehe? Yes. Sorry, what? Yes, okay. So we would want to provide for that before this can be executed, you gotta come back to the board, present the whole plan as a action item for approval.
That's fine.
Would we take that on this and the previous one, I can include that, provide them. Sorry.
The previous one you have to reconsider, which you can push forward in paper. Eventually consider the
Yeah, so right now we have the Kulana OED culinary program on the table. We're gonna have that online, we're gonna add the must return in an action on the board. Let's just vote that.
Right, you can vote that or treat that as you get per motion.
Okay, okay.
We can just add that proviso, right, to the action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the proviso language generally be that you have to come back to the board for final approval before executing the contract.
Okay.
You comfortable with that, Trustee Waihehe? Yes. Okay. Roll call.
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
trustee Akaka,
Aye.
trustee Akina is excused, trustee Alapa. Yes. Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay,
Aye. trustee
Souza.
Aye.
Trustee Waihehe. And Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, now go back and motion to reconsider the Pu'uhonua Restorative Justice Program
Mm-hmm.
to include the same revised.
Sorry, it's different, it's multiple. So it's 2 separate votes. First vote to reconsider, second vote.
Okay.
So can't we just add the proviso? The-
It's just gonna be 2 votes.
Mm.
It's better, it's better if you roll call.
Okay.
We're gonna amend.
Let's motion to reconsider the full owner restorative justice program.
Okay.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused, Trustee Alapa, Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay,
Aye.
Trustee Souza, Trustee Waihe'e, Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Then. We'll move to amend.
Yeah.
Add the proviso language for the full owner restorative justice program with the allocated amounts that you stated, which was 200,000 in FY 26 and 300,000 in FY 27. And that prior to execution, the program is to be presented for final approval via action item to the Board of Trustees.
Yeah. So moved.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna.
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused, Trustee Alapa, Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza, Trustee Waihe'e, Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay. Chair Lindsay. Is that it?
That's all I had money for.
Okay. Trustee Alapa, back to you for your org chart proposal. And then we're going to Trustee Souza.
So I'd like to make a motion to amend the BOT Board of Trustees organizational chart to reflect a singular line of leadership strata with the chair and vice chair in the center. In line with, and as well as in line with all trustees, all of us are in line, and our members and staff would then be located respectively to each trustee below each trustee.
Members discussion?
Yeah. I don't understand it. Like, what are we doing?
It's just so that we're all the same. Yeah, this is regard to the
How we write the
organizational.
chart?
So on the organizational chart, currently, if I'm not mistaken, you have the chair and
Vice
the thing,
chair.
yeah. No, above us, and then their staff above us, and then the rest of us below. So originally, it's the flat way in which we're all the same, yet we still have our chair and vice chair in the center, and then we flank them. That's it. And then everyone falls below,
Trustee Souza?
as the original was.
Right.
Sorry.
Madam Mr. Chair, I actually like to amend the motion to actually have my photo being put back up on the wall. Sorry. The photo was taken down. You know, I don't like seeing myself, but I do at the same time. And I would love to know, right, when we walk into the board suite, who the trustees are, not the former trustees on the left-hand side, but the current standing trustees. So if I could amend that motion to make sure my photo gets put up on the wall. I don't know any discussion, trustees. You can make them like on Mauna, you can make on M, you can make on C, whatever you want to do. But yeah, thank you.
Trustees discussion on Trustee Alapa's. Any further discussion?
Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to propose that we put the pictures back as we had it when I was the chair, and that you would be the middle person because you are the chair,
Royce?
and we have 4 on both sides. I mean, it looks nice. It looked nice.
I don't care where it is, as long as you just put it back. Thank you.
Roll
And-
call vote. Okay, I'm sorry. The motion is to flatten the org chart. Doesn't change any duties and responsibilities in the bylaws. It's more of a how the org chart is presented. And then to put the pictures back up on the wall. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Roll call vote.
And then vote
Okay,
on
let's do
the
that first.
amendment.
Let's vote for the org chart first. To amend the Board of Trustee org chart for 26 and 27 to reflect a singular line of leadership with the chair and vice chair in the center, as well as aligning trustee staff beneath respective trustees.
I think it would,
Yeah. This- I'm sorry, do you have something, trustee Akaka?
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
it would only make sense as we do our roll call votes and we have things aligned in alphabetical order to keep it in that way. And those, if you're interested in having your titles in there, then that's staying in place.
This point, I'm good. If that's what we want, I'm fine. Okay. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa.
Yep.
Trustee Galutaria. Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Trustee Wahehe. Chair Kahele.
Aye.
We have 2 no votes and we have 6 yes.
Okay. Are we for real about the pictures on the wall? No, it's not
No,
part of the
no,
budget.
no,
Okay.
no.
Bryce, we'll just get the pictures back up.
No.
Bryce's-
Mr. Chair, there's never any intention to have
Okay,
that up.
trustee
the
Souza,
Board of
you
Amendment. Mahalo.
recognize trustee Souza.
And mahalo, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move to approve the budget for fiscal year 26-27 in its current form with the I have the floor. Thank you very much. Again, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to approve the budget for the biennium budget fiscal year 26 and 27 in its current form with the approval amendments as of June 30th, 2025 at 5:28 PM.
Okay, hold. Okay. How much? Okay. You spent too much money. Okay.
I have a proposal then.
Wait, hold on. We still have trustee Souza's motion. But we're in the negative. We have to fix that.
Okay. I can fix it.
We can, okay, hold on. Should you? No, I mean, we gotta fix this and then it's your format. Will you withdraw your motion? That's the cleanest.
Mr. Chair. For the second time today. Mahalo for everyone's patience. I'm going to move to withdraw my motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And we're going back to Grace.
I can find some money.
Oh, hold on. We got him.
Make yourself a look heard.
Found it, Grace, Lena? I don't know. That's the relief phase, FY 26. Page? Need the page number.
Okay.
Word search disaster.
What is? Who's got story?
Go to page 200,
Okay, one.
page 200. Page 200, line number 8526. We're gonna reduce that by $50,000. Page 200, line 8526, for the reserve for disaster aid will reduce by $50,000. That'll put us in the positive. Hearing none. That'll get us in the green again. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna.
Ready?
Yeah, so, sorry, thank you. Thank you, Chair. One of the problems we have. Oh, yes, sorry.
Trustee Akaka.
What is this regarding?
This is line 8526 on page 200. We had increased the reserve for disaster aid with the earlier motion. So we can bump that back by 50,000.
Is this the motion for reconsideration?
It's, right now we have a net negative, FY 26 budget of 47,429. So by taking out 50,000 from the disaster aid, get us like back to $3,000. So. Yeah, so we're gonna reduce line 8526 by $50,000, period. This is the reserve for disaster aid, which was originally 150,000, but we increased it significantly with the earlier motion from trustee Souza. And I believe the ballpark number was a little under $500,000 that we had plus up. Was the original allocation of, yeah, so 310,407. Okay. Yeah, so there should be 310,407. Adding 310,407. Okay, so it would be 310,407 plus 150. Yes. 310,407 plus 150. So the current number there now on line 8526 is 460,407. And if we reduce that by $50,000, we will now have 410,407. Okay, so we're referencing the reserve for disaster aid. There's a grants in aid, disaster aid allocation only for FY 26. We're gonna reduce it by $50,000 and the new amount will be 410,407. And that will give us a net positive of 47,429, 2,571. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna reduce grants and aid for disaster aid for FY 26 from 460,407 to 410,407. We're gonna reduce it by $50,000 for the disaster aid. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna
Yes.
said yes. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Aquino is excused. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Wahehe. Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, so we should have a net positive in the FY 26 core of $2,571. Okay, trustee Souza now. Sorry to keep having you
No problem, Mr. Chair.
withdraw your motions.
No problem, Mr. Chair. I just want to make clear, we have a parliamentarian in the House and we're learning the process as well. We're going to have parliamentarian training in the future. And when somebody has the floor or being recognized at the time, I would hope that we all have respect in this room and allow them to speak. Mahalo. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I would like to move to approve the budget, fiscal year 26-27 budget in its current form as of June 30th, 2025 at 5:35 p.m., which includes all the approved amendments.
We need to take public discussion on that. Do we have anyone that is here from the public that wants to testify on what is now the revised budget that includes, I don't know how many amendments we did on it? 27 amendments? Anybody from the public? Hold on. Next step.
Next step is discussion.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, great. Somebody raise their hand. Who's this? Venus? Are you online?
Kalamai, I just had a question about, I mean, I appreciate the Pu'uhonua moving forward, hopefully. I appreciate that amendment, but I'm wondering if, so it's mainly a question, does it go hand in hand with the Native Hawaiian Specialty Court? because my understanding is with the court, then we have somewhere to refer our families to the pu'uhonua. So I'm wondering if it should be kind of approved in together.
Yeah, Venus, that is not included in the Pu'uhonua Restorative Justice program that the board has included at this time, to answer your question.
Okay.
Do you have
So
any other comments on the budget?
no, I'm just wondering if that it would make more sense for it to be approved together. But I'm just throwing it out there. I'm wondering. Thank you.
No, thank you, Venus, and thank you. Really appreciate you. I think you might be the only one still online watching.
I know, all day, 8 o'clock.
Really appreciate it.
All right.
Anyway. Okay. The trustee Souza's motion on the table, and trustee Akaka wants to be recognized. Trustee Akaka, you're recognized.
Mahalo. I just want to double check for the record. Have I been able to introduce or pass an amendment yet? Do you have that on record? Because I did keep raising my hand and I keep asking for some consideration, and then that's the response I'm getting. So I don't appreciate that. If this is full and free discussion, to have a fair and open process.
Well, so trustee Souza has the floor now. Why don't you explain to the trustees amendments you'd like to make? Because he's gonna have to withdraw his amendment, or we're gonna have to vote on his amendment. If his motion does not pass and he puts it to a vote, then we continue. If he decides to have his motion voted on and it passes, then the budget is adopted. So I think if you want to explain your amendments for this board to consider,
Yes.
go for it.
So I'm looking at what our options are to further reduce some of the spending here. Some of what Hulu had mentioned, I am in agreement with. I think those are good ideas, which we voted on. I think another set that we can look at is our AHA OPO program. Originally, we were budgeting in the 53,000. We can round it up to about 60,000 because currently we have it budgeted for 200,000. So that would free up more money. My other point too is I was asking earlier in this meeting for a motion for reconsideration to add to the proviso that when it comes to that JABSOM program, that there is a report on the progress, and if funds are not used, how that will be returned to us. However, I think it might be an even better idea where it's moved from grant and aid, and then they're welcome to then apply under competitive grants.
So
I'm open to the mana'o of our trustees.
I mean, why would we make the Department of Native Hawaiian Health compete? This is the University of Hawaii medical school that's getting their funding cut.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I also think that in alignment with the other CIP projects, that it would make sense for it to go through the proper vetting and making sure that we give it time. If we're gonna do it in-house, have it provided in-house, working with them, or if it is a competitive grant, that there's a clear process in how we go forward to make it a clean understanding.
I think I want trustee Souza's motion to be voted on. And if it does not pass, then we can keep on going. Nope, no second required. Trustees discussion. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna,
Kanalua.
Trustee Akaka,
Ole, as I would like to continue this conversation on what I spoke on.
Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa,
Aole.
Trustee Galuteria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Trustee Wahehe. Chair Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Ahuna.
Aye.
We have 2 ole and 6 yes votes.
The motion is adopted. The budget is passed. Are there any announcements from the trustees? The chair has an announcement. Trustees, we've been here since 8 o'clock in the morning. It is 5:40 p.m. and today's process was never just about numbers or financial plans. What we did here over these last 9 hours is far more than the adoption of a budget. It is a reflection of our growth, our willingness to compromise, to learn into our discomfort, and our shared commitment to doing what is pono for our people. We began this journey from a difficult and at times very divided place. The road here wasn't easy. There were moments of tension, moments of doubt, and yes, there were voices, some loud and strident and insistent even, that questioned our ability and our readiness to take on this responsibility. But today we showed what true leadership looks like. We listened deeply. We spoke with intention. We challenged each other with respect. Most importantly, we found our way forward together. What we accomplished today is more than a response to criticism. It is a reflection of our growth, of our commitment, and our love for our people. In preparing for this day, I spent time reflecting on the wisdom of our kupuna. In old Hawaii, Ali'i and Konohiki were not remembered for what they kept, but for what they shared. Their leadership was measured not in wealth or titles, but in the abundance of their aina, the well-being of their people. They led with generosity, with humility, and with aloha. And that is the spirit we have tried to honor in this budget. From long overdue salary equity to long-awaited investments throughout our pai'aina, from programs that strengthen the health and education of our lahui to services that uphold our mission and values. This budget is a reflection of our collective kuleana. It represents a return to ancestral principles, reimagined for the needs of today. In a time when the world is increasingly shaped by division, of scarcity, and distrust, this board, each and every one of you, chose a different path, one rooted in care, responsibility, and aloha for our people and our future. We may not have agreed on every detail, but we found common ground in our shared values and in the shared vision we hold for the generations to come. To my fellow trustees, each and every one of you, I'm incredibly proud of you. I really mean that. Of your courage, of your conviction, and of your willingness to lead with bold and all of your heart. In every sense of the word, this was a collective achievement and one that speaks volumes about who we are and who we strive to be for our lahui. And so as we move forward, may we continue to ask ourselves with honesty, humility, and unwavering purpose, how well are our people and our aina being fed today for the generations yet to come? That is our measure, that is our standard, and that is our shared kuleana. So mahalo nui loa for your dedication, your courage, and your aloha. I want to thank our staff. Those that came up and testified today. Your message was heard, it was resonated with. I want to thank Ryan and Parker and Grace and Everett and the team that worked on the numbers. I want to mahalo Kapohana for having that idea on Friday and putting that in place. I want to mahalo all the people that came to testify, not just today, but on the previous days when the budget was brought forth by the Budget and Finance Committee. And our hardworking trustee staff, mahalo nui loa. We got a lot of work ahead, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. So let's continue this work together. There being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn? It has been moved to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Trustees, this meeting is now adjourned.
Woo, brother. Good job, bro. Good job. Proud of you. Look, bro. Everybody got cute. Oh.
So.